Started. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Aligning with Success. It is June 11, and we are flying into the year. I don't know if you guys have noticed how quickly time is passing, because it just seems to be like a zip for me. But progress is what this call is about. More specifically, progress in alignment with some core values and some very clear objectives. And ask if you're not talking to either mute or just be aware of your background noise because it's coming across. Thank you. Last week we had a really interesting guest. I hope you guys enjoyed Andrew's commentary on his experience in terms of the process that he's been going through as a newbie, and particularly, interestingly enough, a millennial. Who I read an article about that just recently. Actually, the percentage of millennials engaging in entrepreneurship is considerably smaller than Gen X and considerably smaller than the baby boomers. So while there may be lots of hope holding out for them, I find that the most interesting demographic and the most prominent demographic for our business going forward is the Gen X population. In fact, I had an interesting call today with a Gen X individual who had some real data associated with that based on marketing information. And so I don't know if that's what you're experiencing out there, but that's, I think, what I'm experiencing, not just in North America, but in Latin America as well, where when we speak of the sweet spot, I think we would like to ideally conclude the millennials ages 30 and up, but I'm finding that it's not until you really hit your 40s that you start to encounter the pushback that I guess you never anticipated when you were younger. And that pushback I'm talking about is everything from either a physical ailment to a financial one, or just simply the stress that's associated with trying to create a life and a lifestyle in the current climate. I also saw an interesting article today about the recent princess who was married to Harry, and how she was a person who was involved in the movement that we're referring to in our presentations as far as the gig economy. She was involved in many gigs while she was building her base of acting skills and so forth. So the idea of being in the gig economy is something now that's pretty pervasive in our industry, and it doesn't matter how old you are, what your background is, or what your primary source of income is. More and more people are involved in the gig economy, and that's more than half the population. It's growing. So clearly people are looking to be involved in other things. Anyway, going back to our conversation last week with Andrew Boost, he had some really interesting comments. So before we jump ahead, I think it would be worth maybe taking stock of some of the things that you picked up on that call. And I hope, I was just looking at the call over again today, and the number of people who had reviewed it, I think that number should go up considerably. Many of you reported back to me almost immediately that that was one of the best calls we'd had on this Aligning with Success call, because it was something obviously you can relate to, being in the throes of contacting, inviting, going through whatever the learning curve or the fear curve is associated with that. Andrew has some great information and great tools, I think, to offer all of us as to how he's getting through that learning curve and honing his skill as a professional. And that's another point that I want to make as well. I was listening to some work by Richard Brook. I hope you guys are plugging into him and some of his information. He's going to be our keynote guest speaker on Saturday at the event here in Toronto at the summit. And he refers to network marketing as a profession, not so much as a business, although it is a business, and you know, there may be the odd comment here and there, but the idea that it's a profession, I think, is an important way of looking at it, because it does speak to the fact that we are professionals. And more than anything, I think, people, especially those of you who have been plugged into this journey with me, are really people who consider yourselves professionals. and are honing your skills every day. You see yourself as becoming not only a NECAN professional, but a network marketing professional. Just the idea that it is a profession. So I think it's really important that we start to identify with these key terms when we're engaging with other people and they're asking us, is this MLM or whatever they might be saying to us? We can refer to it as, are you referring to the profession or the concept? I'm not exactly sure what you mean. And then you can get further into it. I also like the fact that Andrew said he's not engaging any objections about network marketing. So that's clearly an indication about his posture. Let me just mute out. So let's just ask you, those of you who've had a chance to review the commentary last week. I think it's a really important one, and one that needs to circulate more than it has already, about Andrew's experience in delving into contacting, inviting, delving into posture, how he has changed his posture from one of a person who was feeling like a chicken, or like someone out of an awkwardness, being displaced from his profession, what he's more familiar with, to someone who is seeing this as a profession and honing a skill and willing to go through the experience of making quote unquote mistakes in order to hone that skill, not looking at it as a mistake, but looking at it as a learning opportunity. So just any commentary that you have, I'd like to get your feedback on this. I'm hoping that you have some, otherwise we will move on.
I thought he was the best example of conviction. Just in his posturing, he was very strong about that. So everything that he said expressed to me what that word means, conviction.
Okay. Anyone else?
So in the moment, I don't remember exactly what he said, but I'll mirror what Madeline said. It was his posture, his confidence, his presence, and being able to just go for it. And like you said, not afraid to make mistakes, but just to learn and grow with all of that. And it was very inspirational and refreshing. And I felt like I got a boost of energy from that to carry with me.
Anyone else? Thank you.
Also, he articulated, I think it was in San Francisco, where he didn't have a team, and you were quite direct, and he responded and said, okay, and he made the changes he needed to. So.
Just as a recap for those of you who weren't on that call, what we're talking about is the interview that I had last week with Andrew Boost, who's a millennial who has had some challenges. He jumped into NECAN and quickly went to silver. In fact, I believe it was in a week. So for anyone wondering, how long does it take to go silver? It takes however long you want it to take. It could take a week, it could take a year. It's not a function of how long it takes. It's what decision you make and then the game plan you put around that. But he ran into the wall, as silvers often do, because he had not yet developed his skill or his sense of connection to the business opportunity and the longevity and his role in it and so forth. So he struggled for a while until he connected with me, and then we started working together, going through a game plan. And that game plan was actually targeting my event, the event that Bernadette McBurney held in San Francisco, where I was at, the CEO of the company was at, the Royal Ambassador was at. I mean, there was the who's who of NECAN was all there. And we had 3 months leading up to that event. So no excuses, but he had a no-show. He had no one there. So here's somebody who we were holding out a lot of promise for, and certainly demonstrated that and was committed to that, but for some reason fell well short. How many of you have had that happen? Have an event going on, have a call going on, etc., and you run into exactly that, a very unexpected thing, and yet it happens. And so for him, it was really staring him in the face when he was confronted by me by that idea that here we are. I mean, I made it, the CEO made it, and all the other speakers made it. Where's his guests? And so he looked at that, and I tell you, a lot of people might get blown out of the water with something like that, because it's really being held accountable But what he was being held accountable to was what he wanted out of this. And so, because I'm such a proponent of the law of attraction, that what we attract in our life, what we experience in our life, is what we have ultimately attracted, including disappointment. So if somehow he had fallen short, well short of any expectation, there was something undermining him. And I believe that it was his energy, which is a composite of his attitude, his beliefs, his convictions, his commitments. It's the combination of the three. And so when he was sort of put up against a mirror to evaluate that situation, he realized something had to change. And it was like a switch went off, and all of a sudden he started approaching this thing with a different sense of conviction, a different posture, which I, again, would say is the composite of attitude, belief, and conviction. And you guys heard it in that call. You felt his conviction. And one of the things that I think I took away from that call, which is very apparent, very obvious for anyone looking at this as a profession, especially if you're new to any kind of business or any kind of sales, is to disassociate or detach from the outcome. That he saw his role. What was different was he was no longer projecting energy into the situation with his dialogue with an expectation of an acknowledgement, almost as if he was expecting to be acknowledged for having made the right decision to get involved in NECAN and to be committed to NECAN. A lot of us are looking for approval when we're out there talking to people. We may not even be aware of it. But if you've had any doubts at all in your mind about this business opportunity, the value of this business, the possibility for generating income, etc., for yourself, if you are hosting those doubts within your energy field, you are projecting that out with whatever else you're saying to somebody else. And on some level, they're picking it up, which comes across as maybe a lack of conviction, or comes across as maybe a lack of sincerity, or it just somehow comes across and can be read by someone who is really intuitive and just give them the wrong feel or the wrong vibe. And so the results might be they put you off, they don't really take it seriously, whatever. And then you end up with a no-show like he did. So something had to change within him. And once that happened, then his whole approach, his whole demeanor, his whole energy, everything shifted, where it was now not about whether or not they liked it. It was about whether or not he was able to effectively communicate. And that put the focus on what he was offering, the outflow, rather than whether something was coming back. You know, you didn't cast with the idea of hooking somebody in. There was more of an outflow, more of a genuine, I'm really seriously looking to see whether or not you're the person that I want to work with. So I hope you guys go back, or encourage you, your team, people that you join, make this one of those calls that you have in your library of calls, like the March 27 contact and invite call. Make that one of the calls that you include in helping somebody get up to speed, or helping somebody overcome some of the obstacles that 100% they're going to get when they get started in this business and start reaching out and making contact with people. Because it's not as much what they're saying as much as the energy with which they're saying it that's causing the effect. So we need to address that, and this is a great call for that. There was a comment, anybody?
I guess I was just going to say his openness to taking this on and letting some past success and a promotion go, and then being open to the coachableness coming from you, Mike. And that was just very, very clear. And he's certainly moving forward at quite a speed, it seems.
Yeah, your comment speaks to the humility, the idea of humility. And I think that's an important aspect. I think the one thing that I had going for me when I was, launching my NECAN business, remember, I was 27. So who was going to really take me seriously? Almost everybody I talked to was older than me, and sometimes much older than me. So who was going to take me seriously if I didn't take myself seriously? And so what I had going for me was a sincerity, I guess, in that I really felt that there was something really big and bigger than me here. And that caused me to, I guess, emanate an energy of humility. And when I was asking for help, it was genuine. I was really looking for some instruction. I was looking for some guidance. I was looking for some support. I was looking for some entrepreneurial insight from the people I was reaching out to. And I was reaching out to them because I felt they had that. So there was this sincerity, this genuineness, and it really didn't matter so much about what Nikan was at that point. It was just whether they were willing to take me seriously, whether they were willing to take the meeting with me or the information seriously. It was being prejudiced, I guess, by my energy, my disposition. So that's what we've got when we go into a situation. How they see the information, how they're going to read it as whether they should take it seriously or not is really going to be an interpretation of whether you take it seriously and to the degree that you do, and whether you're transparent and open and sincere about it. So I think one of the biggest hurdles we have in our business and pretty much any business is contacting, inviting. But I'm learning as I'm doing some due diligence and some research in social media that it's not easier.
Let me just listen to this call. I've been waiting.
Social media is not, we got a little bit of interference from one of our callers. Let me just, not sure where that's coming in from. I'll mute out the line. We might think that social media, everybody's just going to come to us, but it's an art. I've been doing my own little experimenting on social media, and it's not that simple because you're trying to play word guessing with people who are being talked to by so many other people in so many ways that I think, and Richard Brooke in our conversation agrees that if we're going to be effective, old school is the most effective. And I believe Eric Worre recently had been talking about that as well, which is contact and invite. So the skill of contacting and invite is perhaps the single greatest skill we could ever help somebody master or become professional at, because it's going to determine whether or not someone will ever even look at Nikan. And then once they do, then it's really entirely up to them as to whether they see a fit. Any other comments? There's a guest on the call today for the first time. I want to pick his brain for a second because we were on a call earlier today. JP, I see you're there, and I know you're not normally singled out in this call, but I do want to pick your brain if you don't mind. You're 45 years old. You're a pretty sharp guy. You've been around the block, and you and I had this conversation about the value that Gen X brings to the equation of this aging population known as the baby boomers and this emerging population known as the millennials, which are essentially the same demographic, only spaced by about, 20 years, I guess. You're right in the middle of that, considered Gen X. I'm on the edge of Gen X and baby boomers, so I kind of see my role as sort of the middleman of this, but you're right in the middle. So you and I shared a little bit of a conversation. Would you mind sharing with this group what you had learned recently about the data concerning Gen X? What Gen X's role in this evolution?
You bet, and thanks for asking me to chime in, and I apologize. My video's not up, so you can't see my face. But so I was at a conference with John Zogby, who is allegedly America's pollster, the Zogby poll, and then I was at another event with another futurist who looks at demographics, and in both situations, both people who study generations and demographics made the comment that Gen X is the bridge. It's the bridge between boomers and millennials. And while that sounds a bit odd, given that many of the millennials are children of boomers, and you'd think that the boomers would know their own children, it really is Gen X that is providing the bridge between those two. And I hope nobody will be offended, but the comments that these two gentlemen made were, the boomers largely were self-focused. And the millennials have a tendency to follow that same pattern, whereas the greatest generation, the Gen Xers, and now what we're seeing emerge in Gen Z, the under 18s, is an other focus. And so the Gen X crew have been playing a bridge, and as things have fallen apart around them, when they're the latchkey kids, they're the ones who, vast majority of their parents were having affairs and getting divorced and on and on. They were the ones who were picking up the pieces, and so as that evolved into the workplace, they again were the ones who, when leaders were self and inward focused rather than outward focused, that Gen X group was kind of picking up the pieces and helping America move forward. After things like Enron and other significant setbacks. So I hope that's helpful.
It is. Actually, I'd like to ask one more question, JP. What, if you were to say there were 2 or 3 key things about what you've experienced about Nika and the Nika opportunity that appeals to you, that you would see as a highlight to focus on attracting other Gen X teammates, what would you say are those 2 or 3 key points?
Well, I think the number one is impact. Is opportunity to have impact well beyond your own scope of influence. And that's something I think we're going to see increasingly, also from millennials, and then ultimately from Gen Z, that people are more and more seeking to have an impact far beyond while they want to have an impact still on their neighborhood and obviously in their own home with their own family, they also are seeing opportunity to have impact far beyond what one would have normally considered possible.
So that would be the primary. Is there a secondary?
The opportunity to have impact in a structure that allows them to have quality time to do the things locally that they truly desire. Time with family, time with friends, time with experiences. As we talk about the quote gig economy, I mean, the gig economy is a lot about experiences and gathering and acquiring different experiences, be they work experiences, be they personal experiences. Especially with millennials, but I mean, I would argue with Gen X as well. Whereas we didn't grow up with, a phone in our hand. We certainly, as we were coming through college, the internet was beginning to really boom. And so while we're not natives, we're certainly closer to natives than others are. And so the opportunity to really, really be able to spend time with the people who you hold most dear, doing the things that bring you the most joy.
JP, I don't know if you've seen the presentation that we've been utilizing recently called A Better Way. Is that something you've been presented yet with?
You'll have to remind me what it is, because
it does
my
mention
time has been so short.
It's simply a presentation that exposes the Nikan opportunity from the point of view of a vehicle for people to actually. Let me show you one of the key images on it.
Mikey hasn't seen it.
Oh, he hasn't seen it. Okay. Well, that would be something that I would be interested in your feedback on, because it was actually designed with what you're talking about in mind. The idea that people are looking for a quality of life. They're looking for a way to make an impact. In fact, one of our graphics specifically speaks of impact in relation to income, so that income is not simply something that you're motivated by, but it's a relationship to impact. It's a consequence of impact, which I think is
he has a set of those cards.
Okay.
A set of those cards.
Okay, cool. So,
hi, Madeline.
So you're already referring to the cards that I'm holding up in my hand. So this is one of the cards.
Yes, I have that.
Okay, so this one talks about the idea that we don't end up getting where we're going by accident. It's just simply the sum total of the choices that we make on a daily basis. And if we augment them or adjust them ever so slightly, we can be going in a completely different trajectory. And so one of the things that we bring up is the idea of money, and how money is categorized into 4 different ways that we're earning it. And most people have been taught how to earn it on the left-hand side, which is trading time for money. And that obviously leads to an insufficient amount of both time and money. So learning a new habit and new behavior. You talk about structure, and then we talk about, what's the Nikken structure? How does Nikken deliver on this? Well, one, they have a product that is worth talking about that changes the way we behave within our homes, that can lead to a better quality of health. Something that we need to be aware of, because we have been conditioned to become sick. It is extremely profitable to keep the population ill, to the tune of $3.4 trillion a year and climbing. So we're saying, well, if it's popular and profitable to keep people sick, I think it could be very profitable to make people well.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the Nikken idea. And it can create a tremendous cash flow. Our Nikken Technologies, our product line. And if you look at the combination of the idea that we can create impact by sharing this information, then what we have is a business structure that looks a lot like a combination of Uber and Amazon in the wellness sector. So that's what makes Nikken relevant, current, and scalable, so that somebody who's looking to make an impact can not only make an impact on the outside world, but they can impact their own lives. So anyway, that's.
I don't know whether he shared with you earlier today or not, but he started in medical school. So JP, why don't you share why you didn't stay in medical school?
Why didn't you stay in medical school?
Boy, well, the quick and dirty is I saw a future where I was not going to be able to practice medicine, where I was going to be directed by insurance companies and practice managers how I would care for patients based on data, biochemical testing and imaging, and morbidity, mortality charts, versus actually sitting and listening with a patient and trying to understand what issues they were facing.
And when you were at the world famous Cleveland Clinic, how many hours did you spend on the phone with the insurance company? And Michael, he would be a good addition to the medical health professional panel.
Just on trying to get a sleep study okayed that the doctor had asked to be done within 48 hours, it took me 7.5 hours of direct on the phone time to actually get the vendor, the insurance company, and the Cleveland Clinic, to get those 3 entities to actually coordinate and communicate. It took 7.5. Well, if you add in my wife's time on the phone, it took over 9 hours to get them to approve that study.
And then when you got the study and you needed the treatment, what happened with the order to get it approved?
The doctors in Richmond said that I had to actually see somebody here, because the assessment of the Cleveland Clinic wasn't apparently good enough. So last Friday, over 2 weeks after getting back to Richmond, I finally was able to see a sleep specialist. And today I received the call from the vendor, who will then set me up with the machine. And fortunately, they were able to squeeze me in tomorrow. So instead of, the doctor thought it would be another 2 weeks. So instead of it being 4 weeks since the sleep study and the order was written, it will end up being only 2.5.
And one could be dead in 2.5 weeks.
Yes, you could very easily.
It's interesting, because I've got a friend, a very good friend actually, who I just found out was in the hospital a week ago with severe concerns of sleep apnea and the impact that had on his body, that he was actually admitted. Yeah. And so he and I happened to pass by each other yesterday on the road. And so what do you think I'm going to be prescribing? As a matter of fact, I already have. So
Yeah, I'm certain you have.
Yeah. So I'm not a doctor by any stretch, but I think I know a little bit about health and well-being because I've been in it for 26 years, 26 and a half years. And the subject about health and well-being is it actually doesn't really require double-blind studies. It requires common sense. And that's hard to come by, it seems, in this world that's so prejudiced by trying to make you believe stuff that's not really real, but it makes you believe it so that you become a consumer of it. Nikken just simply deals in common sense. Better sleep, better nutrition, better hydration. These are fundamental things, and they can really impact someone's health given some time. And it doesn't have to be a lot of time. We see results pretty quickly with Nikken. So thanks, JP, for jumping in and sharing
Absolutely.
your insights. We appreciate it.
Absolutely.
So, and by the way, I want to invite all of you to invite people who are new to your business, to your team, to be on this call. We grow when we experience the perspective of other people, especially those who are new to the business. They can help us shape our marketing message when we can learn from them what it is that's attracting them to Nikken, and then we can get better at conveying that information to people in short order. That way we're getting straight to the matter. Anyway, any other comments? We don't have to make this a long call tonight. I wasn't hoping to. We had originally intended to make this call 30 minutes, and it ended up always being 45 or 50. So there's a comment?
I was just going to say, JP mentioned his intention of going into medicine and how he realized that was not going to be realized, and how Nikken actually is the perfect vehicle for that. So welcome.
Definitely.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
I wanna. You guys are not naive to this, so let me just remind you all. I've been actively chatting with you guys on the Launch Partners chat. We have a tool, chat. It's not actually meant to chat. It's just simply meant to provide tools that are relevant, that we're getting as we're getting them and sharing them with the larger audience. So today I posted on the Launch Partners a link that you can now share with your teams, the link where they can plug into this tools chat. And I realized that when they do plug into the tools chat, first and foremost, they're not going to have all the tools that you've been exposed to, because it doesn't give them the archive. It only gives them access to the chat from the moment they're part of the chat, but they don't need to be approved to be part of the chat. I don't need their phone number to be part of the chat. This is something I learned recently, that I can actually just give them a link and they can become part of the WhatsApp chat called Tools. But please follow the instructions, because invariably what happens is I unleash the cat out of the box, and the next thing I know, I get chat message. Oh, that's a great tool, and it completely undermines the whole purpose of the chat, which is not to comment, but just to simply share this information. We can comment in other chats. So please remind people about that. Really, it's the first point on the rules and regulations of how to use this chat. So please just make that point come across well. Also, because I realize that people are not going to have access to the information, when you ask somebody to join the chat, the first thing you should do is forward from that chat. And how you do that, I don't know if you all know how to do this, so I'm going to just share with you how to do this. Go to the actual chat itself. So here it is. I've clicked on the tools chat, and gosh, I wish this camera was in a different place. So I'm on the tools chat, and if you go to the very top where it says tools and touch that, it'll open up a menu. And that menu has media links, documents. So you can see, if you click on media links and documents, there's 3 folders at the very top that says media links and documents. So in each of those folders are all the things that I have that I've seen since I've been part of the chat. Now, I happen to have them all because I started this chat, but those people who are just joining the chat, let's say right now, they're not going to have anything in this media links or documents. And the links would be all the things that I've shared over the months and years of, videos that I thought were very good tools, or videos that you thought were very good tools. Documents such as the new presentations that we thought were really good, the PDFs and so forth. So this WhatsApp chat is brilliant for being able to share documents, video links, media being pictures. So for instance, one of the most recent ones that was repeated was this one. This one came from Nikan Inc. and their Facebook post. So Nikan Inc., Nikan HQ, the headquarters, is starting to, you can look them on Facebook, Nikan International. They're starting to post some really good social media links that we can then use on our Facebook and our Instagram chats to start drawing attention to our products. And they're doing a really good job of making them look interesting and attractive and a touch point. Social media, especially Instagram, is all about the picture. And so these guys are starting to shape up real good on that. Suzanne, you had your hand up?
Yes, so for those of us who do not have iPhones, there are still some of us. You don't hit on the world, the tools thing. On the right-hand side, there are 3 little dots.
Okay.
And you want to actually click on the dots, and then you want to click on Group Media.
Okay, so you're talking about, I guess, what type of phone is that then?
Android.
Android phone, thank you. So the Android phone, it's the 3 dots, which most people know those 3 dots means there's more information here. It's amazing how we have learned a language without ever having a conversation about this language. It's just become, this whole programming on smartphones has become so intuitive that we've become all identifiable with icons. Anyway, the point is, yes, this is a fabulous tool. WhatsApp is a great tool, which you can even do online on your computer while you're sitting at your desktop. Just go to whatsapp.com, connect your phone on the same Wi-Fi system, and bang, you can access all your Wi-Fi chats, or excuse me, all your WhatsApp chats and share documents and stuff. But where this tools is concerned, this tools format, please forward tools that you think are important. So if you sign somebody up and they want to, you want to get them started, and you've got some tools from the WhatsApp chat that you think are really good, then forward them to them. Just simply select and forward the tools to them so that they start having access to these tools. And then as more tools are posted on the tools chat, anybody who's part of that chat is going to get access to that tool that they can, use. So that's another great way of using the WhatsApp group chat, is that you can create a group chat. And now we've expanded it to include, just by sending that link off to somebody, they can become part of the chat. So please share it the way I shared it with you, which has the instructions associated with it. So we can get a larger audience of people learning how to use WhatsApp, plugged into these tools, which are all digital, which is a phenomenal way of obviously leveraging and scaling our business, making our business more duplicatable. So enough about that. The other thing I wanted to mention was the 2 events that are coming up that are real springboards, and they're very, very, they're designed to be that way, by the way. So we're about a month away from the event in Orlando, which is a leadership event. Now, if I was brand new in the business, or if I was somebody who wasn't yet seeing the kind of income that I have as expectations and goals, here's what my mind would be thinking. Here's what Mike DiMuccio would be doing right now. And if I was sponsoring somebody brand new, if I had JP on my team, which I don't know if JP, you're part of my organization or not, but these are the instructions I gave JP today. And this is what I would give anybody. We've got about 30 days before the event in Orlando. What happens at an event such as an event in Orlando? Can anybody just jump in? What happens? For somebody who's new to the business, what happens?
You get,
Big vision.
you get a big vision.
Big decisions.
Big decisions, big vision. Okay, so
Leaders.
yeah, it helps to cement and formulate leaders. Okay, so if you know that that's going to happen, then obviously you want to stack the deck in your favor. If you're brand new in the business, you want to take the next 30 days to go like a bat out of hell and really expose a large number of people, knowing full well that not everybody's going to see this the way you do. But if you expose enough people with sincerity, with the idea of asking them for help because this is a cause-oriented opportunity. This is a high-impact, high-yield opportunity. And it's worth them taking the time to investigate, especially if their life isn't hunky-dory, then they should do that. They owe it to themselves. If you did that over the next 30 days, you're going to round up some people. And those people you want to include from the very first conversation that, and this is what I would be saying. I'd be saying, if you like what you see, and I'm not saying that's going to be a for sure, but if you do like what you're seeing, you're going to be on a plane with me to Orlando, Florida, July, whatever those dates are. What are the dates? 21, 22, I think it is?
26 to 29.
Sorry, thank you. 26 to 29. Now, when you say that to somebody, you're going to be on a plane with me to Orlando as an opening conversation. What does that say about the bigness or the importance of what it is you want to share with them?
It also says what you think of them. As a
Yeah.
person.
So it creates impact itself. The idea that this is something significant and it would warrant you jumping on an airplane with me and, shifting your priorities for those 4 days. So I would be doing that for the next 30 days with the goal of having a team of people with me in Orlando. And it could be, and I've had this myself personally happen, where 24 hours before the start of an event, somebody says, I'm coming with you, because they understood this could be a transformational moment in time for them in their life. You just don't know how people are going to receive it, but give everybody the chance. What's going to happen in Orlando? Well, they're going to get some really amazing experiences. And what we just heard from JP, isn't it all about experiences? People are looking to expand their experience horizon. They want to know that they're plugged into a happening thing. They want to know that they're plugged into people that are purpose-driven and have a depth of character and so forth. Are they going to get that in Orlando? Yeah, they are. So now what? Well, what happens then is this team, which had meals together, conversations together, maybe even shared the flight there and back together, whatever, or from whatever part of the country, are going to start talking about what they can do as a team to really put this into high gear, to really make this an opportunity of a lifetime. They're going to get access to the leaders because they're going to learn that that's something that's really important, that it's up to you to reach up and ask for the help. It's just how we do things. It's uncommon in the business world. You don't reach up and ask for help. That's usually a sign of weakness. Here, it's not. Here, it's a sign of strength, that you've got enough humility and respect for the fact that there are people who can actually help you and are willing to help you and are paid to help you. If you recognize that, you'll utilize that. So what are you going to do for the next 60 days? Because there's a 60-day window that follows before the Toronto event. 60 days, if you look at my 90-day launch plan, it talks about 30 days, 30 days, 30 days is 90 days. But in reality, it's the first 30 days where you're totally focused. And then it's the next 60 days where you're focused on your team. So it's the 1-2 of a 90-day launch strategy where you're going to then round up a whole new category of people, a whole new group of people, and they're going to be at the event in Toronto. What's going to happen there? What are they going to experience in Toronto? Anybody? Has anybody looked at the website? What are they going to experience in Toronto?
An industry leader, a motivational leader, and Latin America.
Well, that's so far the speakers, yeah. So they're going to experience the top of the line. They're going to see real quality in the kind of people who we are interested in hearing from, the kind of people we associate with. They're going to experience a high quality event. They're going to experience even the gala dinner.
Being more.
Yeah.
Humans being more.
They're going to be, yeah, well, that's the name of the event, Humans Being More, the Toronto Summit 2018. So if I were then one of those people, part of this new team at that event, and I experienced the quality of that event, the credibility of the people speaking and so forth, what am I going to come away from thinking that this Nikan thing is? I'm going to come away thinking that this is my future. And that's what happened to Mike DiMuccio and so many of us on this call. We came away from one of those big events, quality event, realizing this wasn't like everything else we'd seen. there's something here that's different. It's special. It warrants our attention, our time, our investment of energy. And so here we are, many of us on this call in Nikken over a decade and more. How's that possible? How's that conceivable? And it's a volunteer army, even more inconceivable, because we are connected to the purpose, the mission. And that's what happened when we got together in these special events. It's where we sort of were christened on that idea. It became something that we were really, I don't know, what's the word, immersed in, a full immersion of the experience. So we've got two very important events that would be incredible springboards for the launch of a business. Somebody getting started in Nikken today has the most grand opportunity right there in front of them by having this platform, a platform to really launch their business and leverage the talents of the most talented of us in the Nikken opportunity on those stages. So, and interacting with them. So one thing I want to point out, remember, there's nobody who's untouchable in Nikken. There's just never that experience, right? You've never been to a Nikken event and felt these people are untouchable. They're completely transparent, and no matter how successful they are, they're willing to help anybody, including the newest person. So whoever you expose to this experience is going to have an experience that is not commonplace. And that's how we make ourselves distinct in the world of business and in the world of purpose, as we show people who we are. So please take advantage of these events for your business. It is for your business that they are being put on. And there's great risk. I don't know if you guys realize this. If you've never put on an event of this size yourself, there's a huge financial risk, because you have to make decisions before you know if anybody's going to come, to lock in the venues, to lock in the hotels, to lock in all the commitments that these hotels are requiring of you, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So please realize that this is being done for your business to grow and for the Nikken business to grow. And why is that important? Why do we care if Nikken grows? Well, I'll tell you something. I'll give you a metaphor. If it wasn't for free enterprise, and if it wasn't for democracy, how many of us would have the opportunities that we have, or our children have the opportunities that they have? Somebody had to fight for democracy. Somebody had to put a foundation in place where that could be a reality, so that all the things that can then in turn become possibilities within that reality are born. Well, if Nikken is not around, what's the relevance to your business and your possibilities and the possibility of the next generation? So how does Nikken stay in business? We are Nikken. There's no Nikken operating independent of us. We are the company. Yes, there's a few people who run the corporation, but the corporation doesn't generate the sales. The corporation doesn't grow the corporation. It's us. It's us who grows the company. It's us who grows the base. It's us who bring the consumers. It's us who develop the leaders. It's all us. They just create the environment, which is essentially what the free enterprise system is, essentially what democracy is. It's the environment. And they've done a pretty good job, I think, of negotiating and navigating hostile waters. For 43 years, they've been able to keep this thing relevant. Now, what are you going to do with it? So that's my pledge. My pledge is to do the best I can and to have my own following and my own contingent at these events. I recommend you do the same. So enough pontificating, I guess. Are you with me? Thumbs up? Since you're all muted out. How about thumbs up? Yeah? Thumbs up. We should have a screenshot of this, and that should be the screenshot of the next video. Right on. Okay, thanks, everybody. We'll see you again next week. Please take this information. Last week's call as well. Revisit that. It was a really good call. Share this call if you feel it's important for somebody to listen to. And definitely make some decisions about those two events, because they are springboards. And what will happen is when you back engineer your action plan, if you've committed to those events, you'll be doing different things. You'll be saying different things, and you'll be acting in a way that's consistent with having made those decisions, those commitments, your business will follow. So thanks for listening. Thanks for joining. We'll see you again next week.
Thanks, Mark.